welcome back to the official channel of Faculty of Law, Kurukshetra University. I am Divyansh, and now continuing with the series that we are making on educational videos in regard to the preparation of Moot Court competition as to how can you prepare for your arguments and oral submissions. We are bringing this video, and today with us we have Mr. Arsh Sharma and Mr. Tajwinder Singh. Welcome.
Thank you.
They will be discussing with us how do we make our arguments, how shall we prepare our oral submissions that we are going to put forward before the court while arguing. So starting with my questions, first of all I would like to ask from Mr. Arsh that what shall be the very basic structure of oral arguments? How shall the arguments be made? What shall be the structure of it?
Divyansh, there are basically 4 components of the oral submissions in the competition. Firstly, let's say there are 2 teams. One is the petitioner team, second is the respondent team. Now, the speaker 1 from the petitioner team shall come forward to the dais and shall start with citing the jurisdiction under which jurisdiction they have come before the court.
Okay.
Secondly, they will, with the permission of the court, they will cite the brief facts of the case so that everybody knows what is happening in the case.
Right.
Then let's say there are 4 issues in the proposition. Now, the first 2 issues shall be dealt with by speaker number 1. After that, speaker number 2 will come forward to the dais. He will be dealing with issue number 3 and 4. And lastly, he will be dealing with the prayer. He will be presenting his prayer.
Right.
Now, petitioners are done with their arguments. The respondents will come forward to the dais. Now, again, speaker number 1 will be dealing with issue number 1 and 2. Now, he doesn't need to cite the jurisdiction or the brief facts of the case because they have already been dealt with.
Right.
Then, speaker number 2 will come forward. He will be dealing with issue number 3 and 4. And lastly, the prayer. Yes. So, now the respondents are also done with their arguments. Now, there shall be a rebuttal from petitioner side and rebuttal from the respondent side. So these are the 4 basic components of the oral arguments.
Right, very interesting. Now you talked about rebuttals and surrebuttals. Tajwinder, would you please tell our viewers what is rebuttal, what is surrebuttals, and which party of the court shall they do it? Which party shall do the rebuttals and which party shall do the surrebuttals?
Sure, Divyansh. So, if you go by the meaning of rebuttal, it simply means a statement which states that something is not true.
Okay.
So, when petitioner comes and present his case, now the respondent have already heard the petitioner and he knew that what contention he has to rebut at that point of time. So the rule of natural justice requires that the same opportunity should be given to the petitioner again.
Right.
Because now whatever contentions were raised by the respondent, it needs to be rebutted by the petitioner. So that is why the rebuttal is there, which gives an opportunity to the petitioner that they now rebut the contentions made by the respondent. Similarly, now whatever contentions made by them in a rebuttal, then again opportunity will be given to the respondent. Now he will be rebutting. That is why it's called the rebuttal. Now he will be rebutting the contentions again. So this is how it works. That petitioner will come, he will rebut the contentions by respondent. That is called rebuttal. And then respondent will come and they will rebut. That is why it's called rebuttal.
Right, very right. We all are very well versed with this fact that in any Moot Court competition, the most exciting part, the thing that most intrigues the students is oral arguments or the submissions that they're going to make before the court, just like any real court. So Arsh, would you please tell us how does this process of framing of arguments take place? What should be the things that students should keep in mind while they frame their own arguments?
Divyansh, let me tell you one thing. Argument is a very collective term. And now if we bifurcate this term, we will get to know that there are 3 components of the arguments. Firstly, we present the present scenario of the case or whatever issue we are dealing with.
Okay.
Right. Now that this is happening in the present case. Secondly, we raise our contention that we want this to happen. We want this court to do this. Right. This is our contention. This is our basic contention. Like we can say that yes, right to internet is the fundamental right, or the other side will say that it is not. So these are our contentions. And lastly, the third component is to support this contention with certain case laws or the prevalent laws in the country. So these are the 3 basic components of the arguments. And one more thing, we know that there are issues and there are further sub-issues. For every sub-issue, this format needs to be followed. This is how you form your argument. This is how you establish your argument.
Okay, That was very precisely stated by Ash. Now, coming to the next part of it, we have made our arguments. So, Tajvinder, please tell our viewers that how shall the mooters, the participating students, shall address the court. Please tell us about that.
Okay, sure. See, for addressing one thing, and I believe that that is the most important thing, which is the deciding factor that either you're going to win or lose, is the humbleness.
Okay.
So while addressing the court, one thing which you should inculcate in yourself is the humbleness. So for that, there are certain ways, like there are certain vocabularies which we use to show that humbleness toward the judge. And most importantly, not in your language that we speak, but also in your body language that humbleness should reflect, you know. So for that, we address the court as your lordship. We call it as your lordship, or sometimes your honor, or maybe your ladyship if the judge is female, or sometimes we call it honorable bench. So these words reflect our humbleness, that we are humble toward the court. If we go by the series, no, we start by seeking the permissions. The part where we seek permission is also a component to that we are humble. So first of all, we stand on our place and we say, counsel seeks permission to approach the dais. Now from here, when the judge will allow that please approach the dais, now we go to the dais and then we again ask the permission that counsel seeks permission to address the honorable bench, either as your lordship or your honor, whatever you feel like. So you ask this, and if the court allows, then you use the same word as that. And similarly, again, for each thing you need to seek permission, either to state facts, either to start with your arguments, either to start with your prayer. For everything you need to seek permission, and that is how you be humble to the court.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe in any moot court competition, it is not like any monologue, which means one party is not only saying. I believe the other, the bench, the judges who are residing onto the bench, they must also ask some questions. They must also have some queries, whether it is related to jurisdiction, or it relates to the facts, or it relates to the law. Suppose if any query is made by the respected judge or the honorable judge, how shall the students tackle up with that, and how should they manage to answer that query with maintaining that humbleness? Arsh, would you please tell us about that?
Sure.
Yes, all right. How I perceive a moot court is all about the questionings, the grilling by the honorable judges, because that's how they evaluate whether we are well prepared with our arguments or not. So if you are not able to answer the questions and maintain the humbleness, as you have said, so you are not going to win the moot court. So for that, firstly, as we have already stated that the students must make their contentions by themselves. So they have learned it by heart. That's we know. But when a question is asked, listen to the question very carefully, and if you are not able to understand, seek the permission of the court and ask them to please rephrase the question, so that you are clearly understood what is the question, and that's how you then you articulate your answer.
Reply to the question.
Yeah, and the most important thing is to clearly state your answer, so that whatever is in your mind, you present it in that way only, so that there is no ambiguity between you and the judges. So this needs to be maintained, and that's how you answer the questions very politely. And even if you are not agreeing upon whatever is being said by the judges, you are not saying like, no, I don't agree, I have something else in my mind. You very politely say that the council opines very differently, or the council possesses a different opinion in this regard. So that's how you maintain the humbleness, and that's how you answer the questions.
That is very important.
And sometimes even they ask very tricky questions, you know.
Yes.
Like, judge, for example, they're going to ask that, why are you coming under this jurisdiction? Why have you not approached the High Court first? So that's how they are trying to get into trouble, so that they are going to check that are you enough confident to answer their questions. That's how they do that sometimes.
And one more thing, if the most frequent question asked by the judges is that whether the judgments of the High Court, whether they are of any value or not. Now we know that they may not possess as much value as the judgments of the Supreme Court. But just to convince the judges, we say that indeed, your lordship, they may have some persuasive value, as the similar circumstances existed in that case also.
Definitely.
So that's how you convince the judges.
Okay, so you have to keep in mind a lot of things. You must be alert.
Yes.
You must be very clear while articulating your answers, and you must also have some vocabulary which can help you so as to tackle up with those questions.
Yes,
Now, coming to my last question, I would like to ask Mr. Tajvinder. what should be the dignified way and how should the students articulate their arguments to the honorable bench or while contending with the other parties? What should be the manner in which they should articulate their arguments?
Sure. See, for articulation, one thing which is most important is clarity.
Okay.
Now, first of all, you should yourself be clear that what you are going to state, and that clarity should be conveyed to judge itself. So what I suggest, what I do myself is I divide my arguments into certain points. For example, if there is an issue that whether this particular thing is violative of Article 14 or not. So whatever my contention is, I will be dividing those contention into 5 parts. That is my first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Now, when I have these 5 things in my mind, I know that these 5 things needs to be conveyed to the judge. So those 5 things exactly I will be conveying to the judge point by point, and he will know that he had these 5 contentions.
Right.
So that's how I always divide my arguments into these sub points, and that will make very clarity onto the judge itself. Second thing which I would like to add over here is there are students who believe in paper reading, which is a very, I would say, ill practice which everyone should avoid, because here you are there in the court. When you are there, you need to maintain the eye contact with the judge,
Okay.
which shows that you are very confident about your pleadings. You know your case very well. So that is why I suggest all to the viewers as well that please avoid paper reading and try to learn, and not learn, I would say, but be real. Be very I would say real about the facts that you are going to state. So that's how we should argue before the court.
Okay, and I believe that marks the end of this video, in which we covered about what are the oral arguments, how shall they be formed, and what are the ways in which you can most efficiently, most effectively articulate your arguments and win the case over the other party. I would like to thank Mr. Arsh and
Thank you so
Rajwinder
much.
Singh for
Thank
giving
you very
me
much.
a very precious time. Thank you so much, everyone.